Good morning, everybody. This is Bart Moyers with our daily men's devotional. This is our very last day of 2025 in doing this. Tomorrow is our camp up in Winter Park, Colorado, and we're so honored to have Brian Plymell speak to us on our very last day. And this has just been a wonderful month that we've had many people. I am just floating. There's just been so much inspiration, and I need to go back and listen to the talks, and you can do that. You can listen to the links. But for today, we have Brian Plymell, and Brian has been an elder in the church in Los Angeles. He's also worked for an international real estate company for, but did you say 30 years?
Hmm.
Something like that.
Yes,
And
31.
after moving from LA back to Colorado, he's here now living close to his family, and he can tell us more about that. But why don't we begin with a prayer? And Todd, would you lead us in prayer?
Sure. Oh, Father in heaven, God, thank you for adoring us, for laving us just with love, God. We throw our burdens upon you and know that you'll get us through this day, Father, that we can be a great vessel and be in your service, God, be in your worship, Father, at all times. God, thank you for the messages that come our way, the spirit that works in all of us, Father, to bring to life your glory and for us to understand your compassion and to continue to feel strong in the work that we do for you, Father. Thank you for all the inspiration. Thank you for these men and the way they rise to the occasion, God, and love and serve you so diligently, Father.
Hmm.
Amen.
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 Well, Brian, I'm going to hand it over to you, my friend. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you. It's an honor. I appreciate so much the opportunity. Can you give me the ability to share my screen?
You bet.
And
How's that?
there we go. Let's see here if I can figure this out.
Morning, Tim. Tim
Um,
Grayson.
well, um,
I hit multiple.
yeah, there you go. Well, are you seeing anything?
Am not.
Okay. Um, Shows you how much I've been using Zoom lately. Um,
If you wanted to shoot me an email, I mean, I can pull it up for you if that's an option.
okay. That could be. Do you have a MacBook by any chance?
No,
Okay.
I'm on
Tell you what,
HP.
we will we'll go old school here, and I will keep my notes to myself. Um, and because I'm not getting through on the sharing here, and I don't want to hold up any more time. I guess. Oh, I see. I've got to grant access. Um, and that's going to take too long. So scratch that. All right. So opening question. How did Jesus show his love?
Hmm.
And as you think about it, I mean, there's some quick theological answers that might come to mind, but as you ponder his life, how did Jesus show his love? And that isn't a question for discussion.
First thing that comes to my mind is that he showed up for me,
Mm,
and I was a kid, probably about 13 years old, trying to figure out life and why I didn't have a father. And I went out
mm,
to what we call the pasture behind our house, and did
mm.
some questioning of the Lord.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Others?
I think he focused on a few men.
Mm,
Uh, his love was focused. It
mm-hmm,
wasn't just a feeling. He really did the things. I think that maybe is part of what's meant when he said, "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you." It was a focused love that was multifaceted.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Deep. Very good. Any others?
Yeah, in that similar vein, he walked with me when things were kind of ugly and treacherous, and making missteps and all that. And he was there to wake me up.
Mm. Hmm. Okay. Well, as we talk about our Lord, King Jesus, and we talk about how we can be more effective dads, it's it's important, I think, for us to really zero in on how Jesus um, lived, taught, and so we can follow in his footsteps. And I'm reminded of a saying that I think what you guys were just sharing really captures a lot of what Jesus has done in our lives and how he showed you his love. And that's a quote from Maya Angelou, the poet, who said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And the title of today's lesson is Unforgettable Understanding, and how Jesus um, really was the ultimate example of understanding in an unforgettable way. My tagline is Jesus was the master of the insightful question. And this lesson today is really the a culmination of something I've been reflecting on and studying for 8 years now. I heard a talk from David Bruce on curiosity, and I had just happened to have purchased a book called The Coaching Habit, um, which, as a supervisor, this really grabbed my attention. Say less, ask more, and change the way you lead forever. It's 100% secular book. The guy who wrote it's kind of a spiritual guy, but it's clear he doesn't really know what he believes. Kind of believes a lot of things, but the concepts were so Christ-like to me, and it his tagline to his book, "Say less and ask more," made me reflect and think. Wait a minute. Um, what Jesus asked a lot of questions, um, and it got me to really see a concept here that is has been captured by all of our speakers along the way, and that is that love is rooted in understanding. And even what you guys were saying, and I think as I went back through my notes, I just started highlighting my notes from our prior speakers, and so many of the things they talked about. Michael Hendricks talking about relational joy and connection and growing in a joyful environment, and um, how the having a memory of appreciation, and how Joseph talked about this picture, and he used questions. What is your picture of God? To get us to really get into this idea of understanding who God is. Even Sam Pace, who had a lot of teaching, he said, but you don't just launch into a sermon and start talking to your kids. You try to you work your way into it. Um, um, anyway, Steve Johnson really triggered me when he was talking about what does a man gain if he gains the whole world and yet loses his soul. And again, just this idea of questions, and then Roger Lamb's talk. He really hit the nail on the head when he summarized. You got to be quick to listen and to empathize and to validate, and then you point to Jesus. You don't just start with the lesson. And so this idea of love is rooted in understanding. I'm going to try not to completely repeat what everybody else has talked about, but um, as I say, 8 years ago, I started really diving into this, and a couple passages that came to my mind. One, Proverb 24, verse 3 says, "By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established." And I'll remember a family devotional that Kevin Maines taught. Some of you may know or remember Kevin, and he talked about, and he asked the question to our mixed group of junior high and high school age kids, what do you wish we understood about you? And then, would you like to know what we wish you understood about us as your parents? And really drove home this idea that it's through understanding that we really our love and our family is rooted. Another classic parenting verse, which applies to us as leaders, as fathers, as husbands, is Proverb 18:2. Fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone into lecture mode, and my wife has had to tap me on my knee and honey, you're doing it. And rather than focusing on trying to convey my understanding to our kids. And so today we're going to really look at our hero, our role model, and master, and look at the what is a concept in Jesus and his ministry that I think of it more in terms of the aroma of Christ, which Paul talked about, because it's not as obvious. It's sort of subtle, but it's there hiding in plain sight. And this is how Jesus conveyed that his understanding of the people that were around him. So, want to ask another question here. How do you feel when the important people in your life understand you? What kind of feelings does that generate in you?
I would say peace and joy.
Okay. Peace, peace with them and just or overall peace?
Overall peace.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That's what I was thinking. You just kind of get this warm feeling in your brain when you're
Mm.
understood, like you can
Hmm.
physically feel it.
Mm.
Yes, I agree. I think that's sort of like the ultimate connection, when somebody really understands you, and especially those that you love. I mean, that's kind of what we're really trying to do
Hmm.
most of the time.
And you think about the opposite of it when you don't feel understood and the frustration. And we're living in a time where, because we have so much access to what people think and say, and we get a peek under the hood of so many people that we would never have known what they think and feel. And now we are forced to make judgments. And whether we're forced to or not, our brains are feeling judged or threatened or encouraged or I'm on your side. Anyway, just a time of division, a time of of tension. And for many people, I hate to say it, but it's in order to keep the peace, it's just avoid the subject. And there's certainly a lot of wisdom to that. But at the same time, I believe that what Jesus modeled for us were some ways where we can bridge gaps and find ways to connect with people that we may not agree with, or we may not know if we agree or disagree. And I've felt there have been many times where I could meet with somebody and I didn't agree with them on things, and that's happened a lot. But if I felt like they understood what I was trying to say or how I was feeling, I was at peace. Back to what you said, Todd, because I felt this peace that at least I know somewhere in the back of their head, they're thinking about what I said, and they may not agree with it, but it's somehow going to be part of their thought process. And I think as fathers and as and husbands and most of us have grown kids, this is super important for us to be able to make our family members feel that understanding. And so as we think about King Jesus and how he showed his understanding for people, um, a little couple warm up scriptures. First John 2:25 concludes that for Jesus, for he knew what was in each person. And so Jesus, he knew where people were coming from. He sized them up. He knew where they're thinking. I think that's part miracle, but I think it's part people study. He had that human Holy Spirit and humanity mixed together. But also Proverb 20 verse 5, really another one of these gold mine verses that says the purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, and one who has insight draws it out. The old NIV said, "A man of understanding draws it out." And so, purposes, what's going on in people's hearts, our kids' hearts, our wives' hearts, our co-workers' hearts, they're deep waters. But a person of insight draws it out, and that was Jesus. Um, Jesus was curious. And this was a point David Bruce had made to me 8 years ago when this study started, actually, 2017. He talked about curiosity, and Jesus asked a lot of questions. And so I'm going to throw out a little trivia question here and see if you guys know how many. Okay, first of all, Jesus, his life was recorded in the Gospels, lived for 3 years. Most people estimate they captured about 50 days of his life. All right. I mean, barely over a month, not even a month and a half of his life. And well, I guess about a month and a half of his life. In those 50 days, how many questions are recorded in the Gospels? Anybody have a guess? Or maybe you already know. Okay.
Wow.
I didn't either. How many?
150.
Wow, Will, you're good. So you're
Just
going
guess.
but no, that's a good guess. Most people, when I thought about it, I thought, man, 10 or 15. I'm thinking, who do people say the Son of Man is? I'm thinking of kind of the obvious ones. And I don't know about you, but when I'm reading the Gospels, sometimes I'll see the question to skip that. And what's the point? Just skip the point, skip the question. So out of those 50 days in the Gospels, 135 separate, distinct, non-recurring or questions were asked by Jesus in the Gospels. 135. You think about in 50 days, that's a lot of questions that were recorded by the apostles. And if my screen was working, I could show you I filled an entire screen with just 40 questions that were asked in the Gospel of Matthew. If you greet only your brothers, what are you doing more than others? Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? I'm just picking these at random. How many loaves do you have? How long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Some of these, I used to think, these are just rhetorical questions. But I really don't believe they were rhetorical at all. I believe Jesus was trying to go deeper into people's souls. He's trying to draw out of them, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? Are they aware of what they're saying or doing right now? And or even if you love those who love you, what reward do you get? Well, wait a minute. Let's stop and think about that for a moment. And I actually did this. There's a website if anybody is interested. There online there was my notes in my phone, and I went through each day and I took a different question, and then I just reflected. First thing is I got up in the morning. I'm sitting in the bathroom, going through this and thinking, what was the point of that question? And then as I went out and prayed, and I was thinking about as Jesus asked, what are you afraid of? I mean, why are you afraid? We're sinking, Jesus. Isn't it obvious? Well, think about it. Why are you afraid though? And so Jesus had this ability to probe, to both draw out what other people were thinking, but also to um, to better understand those people. And as we think about these questions that Jesus asked, 135 different questions that he asked, there are some unforgettable values that Jesus was trying to teach his followers. And the values were both in a talk, but also there was a deeper value that he was trying to teach his followers, that he gets us. You guys probably saw that in the Super Bowl, that the advertising campaign that still continues to pop from time to time on those. He gets us. And you go back to what we were saying about how do you feel when you're understood? It's peace, it's joy, it draws you in. And Hebrews 4:15 really captures this, summarizes this aroma of Christ best. He says, we don't have a high priest who's unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin. So many of those questions Jesus asked were because he could relate as a fellow human being to, why are you worried about clothes? he gets it. He didn't have a big wardrobe to go turn to change his outfit depending on the group he was with. And so he wanted to demonstrate to us that he understood. He asked, he listened, and he understood. And so as we go about our day to day with whether it's with our sons and daughters, whether it's with our wives, our friends, our uh, maybe people who see things differently than us, could be some church leaders, could be some brothers who have a different political persuasion, or maybe they're, heaven forbid, they're Boston Braves fans. Whatever it may be that triggers your loyalties and allegiances. Um, let's remember how Jesus didn't start by defending or debating, which is what our brain, as I'm sure David Bruce is going to be talking about this weekend. Our first reaction is that fight or flight when we feel threatened or we feel triggered or we want to go, and then we want to go into attack mode or defense mode, or we want to shut down mode. And this idea of asking questions, it moves our whole thought process back to that prefrontal cortex, into that help me understand. And so I had some sample questions that I'd share with you that I think some of them have been brought up during our series of morning devotionals. Some of them I mentioned Kevin Main's the platinum question, I think, can apply to every situation. What do you wish I understood about you? Maybe a new church member, maybe a new employee, maybe your kids. And but what do you wish I understood about you? And then what would you like to understand about me? Um, we heard about that yesterday. That some of us grew up with dads who didn't talk about that, and let's open the door a little broader, a little wider for our kids. Um, and I think also it's great to ask, well, what do you like about such and such? When somebody brings something up and that we may not agree with, we may not like, rather than say, why do stop that? Or in a challenging way, I think it's ask it in a curious way. So really, so what do you like about that person or about that, whatever it is? Um, Another great one. How did or where did you see God showing up for you this week? And I love that question, because we can ask it of believers or unbelievers. And I think we um, people who when asked to think about how has God shown up for you, um, it's interesting how it gets people, whether they claim to believe or not, usually have an answer to that question. So anyway, some sample questions for you to think about. And just in conclusion, I just encourage all of us to be unforgettable. Back to Maya Angelou's quote, people will never forget how you made them feel. So be unforgettable. Show people that you want to understand them. And that's what I got for today's devotional.
Brian, really good, man. Focused on questions, and I think that our gender is one that really does repel feelings.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I'm getting to learn that what we've dissed, either in our society or church or whatever regarding feelings was a
Mm.
mistake. And man, I appreciate your perspective on, yeah, it's important to get our feelings out and be able to identify those and the questions. Yeah, I really like what you had to say. Thank you. Who else?
Thank you.
Well, Brian, thank you so much. I'm sorry I got in here late, but man, I'm so glad to be here. Just wanted to be here, support you, but man, just man, this was you get the best for the last,
Mm.
and
You're very kind, Will.
you just really
Well,
came through today, big time for me. Man, uh, could have saved me a lot of heartache with a lot of different people.
Hmm.
And probably, you know, you hear people talking about, I think you really drove it home today. I'd like to know, you cut out just a little bit when you said the website or something. You said
Hmm.
a great website. So I'm going to make sure I'll get that before.
Okay. Yeah, I will I'll dig that up and I'll send it to Bart and he can send it out to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to ask. I mean, it took those questions a little further. You know, I've got a situation right now. I'm going to ask her, "What do you like about
Hmm.
him?" You know,
That's that's exactly the situation I had in mind. I had to with my daughter as well. It's like I was ready to ready to load up and deliver a lesson, and it was like, oh, what do you like about him?
yeah,
And it was interesting because it helped her to think, well, yeah, what is it that I like about him? And
yeah,
anyway, thank you, Will. I appreciate you sharing that. And the story's not over yet. So
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, I appreciate what you had to say today. It really focuses me on why I and probably a lot of people in the world now have come to really like The Chosen. Because I can think of, especially when Jesus met the lady at the well, he asked a gazillion questions, and he had empathy. He wasn't trying to change her, and just by asking questions, she knew that he was the Christ, and he didn't have to dictate who he was or do anything specific. He didn't have to even do a miracle for her. He just let her know he understood her.
Yeah, great, great.
I
Yeah,
think
great picture.
I've got some issues going on with my kids. These are some good questions to just ask, and they're not threatening to just, how can I better understand you, and just see if that can open the door. So I really appreciate it.
Amen. Thank you.
Yeah, it seems like there's just a lack of what you described today in our culture. And I was thinking about, professional coaches, not just the sports teams, but executive coaches, et cetera. And really, people have to pay somebody a lot of money to listen, to ask them good questions and listen. That's really what that is. And I'm not against that, but I'm also, it reveals how how rare it is that you have to go out, and it ought to be part of what we're doing in the church. And I feel the same way. I'm not against therapy at all, but it seems like a lot of stuff we have to outsource a lot of things that could be uh, utilized if we were better at loving each other. And a big part of loving each other is just paying attention to each other. Kent Smith talks about how our attention is our most precious asset, and paying attention to each other and then asking good questions. It's the same thing. And that really is, I think that is a good definition of love. Paying attention, uh, unforgettable understanding, as you said. So you're really describing love, as you started off with, in a very practical, uh, put meat on the bones way. And I appreciated it very much.
Thank you, John. And I think to what you're doing in ministry, it's difficult when you're in a large crowd, in a large auditorium or wherever it might be, to have the time to say, let's stop, let's talk. And I think the small group environment, and which there are hybrid situations where you can have both, but you can't do it with the masses. And I think these questions Jesus was asking, they were small groups, they were individuals. He was, and but it takes time, and we got to slow
Yeah.
down and listen and chew on it and respond. But thanks for that encouragement.
Amen.
Well,
Thank
Brian,
you.
thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us today. We're going to wrap it up here. Guys, it's been a wonderful ride. Thank you for just showing up and being a part of this all month long. And we thank you for your prayers about the camp this weekend. We believe hearts will be touched. You can pray for the travels and just all the little details. This is a God thing, and the rest of us are just walking with Him the best we can to be a help, be a light, be love for these father-son teams. So, Brian, your thoughts? Just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful way to cap this whole month off, and we do appreciate you being a part of this thing. So, thank you so much. Have a great
Thank
Thanks,
day.
you.
brothers.
Thank you guys. Love you.
Thank you.
All
Drive
right, love
safe.
you all.
Be
See you
good.
tomorrow.
care.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.